becomes very, very difficult. You know, and like I mentioned before, it is not easy to find good faculty mentors for undergraduate research students. You know, depending on which university you're in some faculty that have the access to graduate students, they prefer to work with graduate students, and we're going to talk about some of those reasons why they prefer for graduate, you know, with other type of students. But in some other schools, there's not also a structured program that help the mentors to work with undergraduate research students. You know, as a mentor, you're a teacher. You have to be a knowledgeable person in the field that you're doing, you know, and it takes time to teach students. And you also have to be a role model for the profession. So when you're looking for a mentor for an undergraduate research student, that person, probably one of the main characteristics, they have to be an active researcher. You know, a person who has not done research for many years is probably will not be able to provide you with a good mentor-student type of relationship. The mentor is an assessor. As a mentor, you have to give that student constructive feedback because that's part of your role, and it is one of the ways that a student can improve and can improve their undergraduate research experience. And that takes time. So you're going to find yourself, because they're undergraduate students, they're going to require more time. You're going to have to give them more feedback that sometimes that you require to do a graduate student. And that's one of the challenges that we're going to see later, that faculty pinpoint that, you know, being an undergraduate research mentor, it takes up more time than being a graduate research mentor. And those are things that, those barriers, we have to figure out how to manage those barriers. Finally, the mentor is an advocate. You have to find a faculty that is supportive, who cares about a student's best interest, a faculty that will help a student's network with other faculty, professional organizations, business in the field, you know, that a faculty that is willing to do that for the students. And that is huge. That you have a faculty that is so engaged, that is willing to take his time or her time to basically being able to do that. Also, you like to have a faculty that is very knowledgeable about university resources, that if that person doesn't know the answer for a question, that person should be able to find out where the resources are at the university. Or, you know, this day and age, it doesn't have to be at the university. It could be at the nation level. It could be, you know, online, or it could be, you know, like, you know, direct that person to a center like ours, the Lois Stokes, you know, Midwest Center for Excellence. There we have a lot of information available for you online. So those are things that a mentor has a role in the student progress. Now, one of the questions that faculty always ask me when I try to reach faculty to become mentors is, what are the benefits for me? And again, there's research available that I was looking at the benefits of faculty mentors, mentoring undergraduate research students, and there's a whole variety of things that can help, that benefits to the faculty. For example, there have been some research that show that faculty that are engaged with undergraduate research students, they have increased morale, self-esteem, and satisfaction. They become more effective role models and better teachers. They increase the enthusiasm of teaching, doing research. In many cases, the faculty develop new knowledge, research projects. Sometimes, you know, the students are more free thinkers than the faculty, and they can come in and, you know, help the faculty come up with new ideas and go into new directions. Then you have the obvious ones. Then, you know, an undergraduate research student can help you with assisting with projects. It can also help you with additional funding or research grant. I don't know if you're aware that if you have an existing, sometimes you have the NIH or NSF grant, there's probably funding available if you add an undergraduate research student to the grant. So those are things that you have to consider. And also, universities have a pool of money that might allow you to increase your funding. Help a student to work in your grant with the university funding. And probably one of the last one of the most obvious one is the identification of future graduate students. A lot of time you bring your undergraduate students to your laboratory, and that individual will basically stay in your laboratory, and then you hire that person as a graduate student if you know that person is it's a good student. So those are benefits for faculty mentors. There has been the research. There's a lot of research available that have shown that these are all benefits that faculty have attest to that. Now, what are the difference between undergraduate and graduate students? Besides, their level, and the one is an undergraduate and graduate students, one of the biggest complaints or the biggest challenges that a person working with undergraduate student is the lack of adequate research training. An undergraduate student comes to the lab, is not going to have the level of research that a graduate student has. Even somebody who had a complete degree already, that individual might have additional, some research training. So when you get it as a master, at the master level, we'll have some, a higher level of research training, which undergraduate students are not going to have that type of research training, especially if you're working with undergraduate students that you can start working with people as a freshman. I mean, the program that I was the director of, we started students as a freshman, and the students will stay in all the way from freshman to the senior year usually with the same mentor. But that's a challenge, and how can we give undergraduate students that research training? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in some of the slides they're coming up. The other thing is the undergraduate students have an overwhelming number of responsibilities, and always make a research a high priority. One of the things that if you think about an undergraduate student might take him 15, or more credit hours. That's a lot of classes through the semester. And then there are other activities that they participate at all times. They cannot dedicate the amount of time necessary to do a research study. One of the things when a student wants to work with me in the laboratory and some of the other faculty that I work with is that I ask and say, how much time you have available? Are you willing to commit, maybe 5 to 10 hours per week to do this, to work in this research project? And at all time the answer is no, they cannot do it. And that's a problem. And how can we make the undergraduate students understand that it takes time to do research? A lot of the undergraduate students come to me and they want to do undergraduate research. They can only commit once every 2 weeks or an hour every 2 weeks. Well, that's probably is not going to be sufficient to do an undergraduate research project. So that's something that it has to be a discuss if you're going to take an undergraduate research student in your laboratory. How much time do they have, and what are the responsibilities the students have? The other concern that faculty has is, what happens if the student leaves in the middle of the middle of the semester or drops out because they're not interested in the work? What's going to happen to my research? And that could happen if you're a graduate student too. It could be more likely if you're on the undergraduate student level, but that could happen on the graduate research level, at the graduate level too. So that's something that there's not much of a difference between undergraduate and graduate student. The last one is the social and mental maturity of some undergraduate students. Not all of them. There are some undergraduate students that come in with, they're basically work at the level as a graduate students, but overall you're going to have a student that is going to be less mature, that is obviously a graduate student, that is going to affect how they work in your laboratory. It's going to affect the interactions that you have with the student, with other people in the lab and things like that. So those are things that faculty have identified that, those are issues that have to be solved or they have to be addressed when you bring an undergraduate student to your laboratory. Now, again, there are a lot of challenges and barriers that working with undergraduate students in research. And a lot of times the faculty do not want to participate, and some of those challenges again some of them can be resolved fairly easy. Some of them are more complicated, and we'll see what some of the challenges are. One of the challenges that a lot of faculty will tell you is that our university doesn't have a structured program, and so therefore everything I have to do is in myself. This is true. I mean, some universities doesn't have the resources to have a structure on the graduate research program. Like I say, in our university, at IUPUI, we have a Center for Research and Learning that basically handles a lot of this undergraduate research programs on campus. And that's something that maybe talking to administration at the university, the department chairs, and talking about maybe generating, starting an undergraduate research program. It could be started at a small scale. You're seeing more and more departments are actually starting their own undergraduate research program within the department. And again, it's clearly, and we know that undergraduate research is a high impact learning activity, and so it's beneficial for a department to start an undergraduate research program of some sort. It could be very simple, there'll be a few faculty getting together, or it could be a very structured program that requires funding from the department of the university. The other challenge that you're going to see is the university promotion and tenure awards. In most universities, especially Research One institutions and research institutions, the emphasis for faculty has been in research productivity, grants, and publications. And a lot of times this is at the cost of teaching and mentoring. So this is something that it has to be addressed, at the university level, at the departmental level. Are you going to get credit for teaching, for mentoring students? And again, a lot of universities now are beginning to see that this is undergraduate research is important, and changing the traditional way that we adjust teaching workloads and providing faculty with weighted courses. So for example, if you teach a course that requires undergraduate research, they might weight that more heavily than a regular lecture course. Or banking courses, for example, is another one that you teach so many undergraduate research. You take so many undergraduate research students and do so many projects, and that after so many students, that's equivalent to a course release. So there's ways that this can be managed, but again, the faculty is going to have to be proactive about talking maybe the department chairs, the deans of the school, in order for them to make some of these changes. Because again, one of the complaints of faculty is this is not going to help in promotion and tenure. But if you think about the big picture, in promotion and tenure, most faculty are basically evaluated in service, teaching, and research, and all those three categories. Undergraduate research mentoring can be put in some part of undergraduate research mentoring can be put into one of those parts. If you do research with the student, you can get their publications and you can develop presentations and things like that. Mentoring is in many cases, part of teaching. Service is, you can also do service, being involved in undergraduate research programs at the local, regional, national level. So those things can be part of the faculty workload. And hopefully in your universities or your schools, there's a conversation that how to get credit and how you maybe reduce teaching workload for doing undergraduate research, because it is time consuming, and I think a lot of people understand that. Now, another challenges or barriers for working with undergraduate research students is there's a perception that working with undergraduate students limits the research productivity of faculty. It is time consuming, but it is a perception. I think there's people that work with undergraduate research students, and there have been studies that show that people that work with faculty that work with undergraduate research students can increase their research productivity. In some sort of another. There also the perception that undergraduate research produces low quality research. That's also a perception. It's all depends on the mentors. If the mentor works with students and they strive for something that is quality research, it is going to be quality research will be produced. So that in many cases that's a perception. Another challenge that you're going to find also in a lot of universities is that a lot of universities don't provide any type of mentor training. It takes a special person to be a mentor, and sometimes training people to be mentors is crucial. There's a lot of opportunities out there of online mentor training that you can do. There's also manuals, mentor training manuals that you can do, that you can download for faculty, and that's something that can be very easily accomplished if a faculty wants, that you can do some mentor training with faculty. The other challenge is limited funding. True, there's, in most undergraduate research programs, they're not going to pay you to be a mentor. Some of them might have money, a little bit of money involved. But again, if you're proactive, you can find funding. Again, if you have NIH or NSF grants, they're funding for undergraduate research, for undergraduate research students. There are also, again, some universities have also funding, internal funding, for you to work with undergraduate research. I know at IUPUI there is an undergraduate research opportunity program that faculty can actually get funding, and the students that actually get paid to work with undergraduate students in research projects. It's a competitive proposal type of thing. That's students and faculty apply to the program, and they get funding from the Center for Research Learning to do that. And there's other programs that allows you to do that internally. Lack of time, to mentor students, the balance between teaching, research, and service. And again, we go back to the if undergraduate research is part of teaching, research, and service, therefore it will count as in your promotion and tenure. If you make that transition, and make sure that you put in the things that you do with undergraduate research are also part of the teaching, research, and service in your university, it counts to a promotion and tenure. Therefore, it's valuable to you. The last thing is in lack of incentives. This is something that it is a problem. I mean, faculty don't want to engage in undergraduate research because there's no financial, there's no stipend. In some cases, most faculty don't get any stipend to work with undergraduate students, or they don't get any type of course load reductions, or in some universities, mentoring students doesn't really fit in it's not part of the promotion and tenure guidelines. Again, this is something that is changing, because we know that undergraduate research, mentoring undergraduate research is a high impact learning. Again, some universities are giving course load reductions. They're including into the tenure and promotion tenure guidelines. And financially, again, you can get funded, through federal programs, into maybe internal programs that allows you to engage yourself with undergraduate research students. The problem is some universities are doing this, some universities are not doing that. It depends on how your university view undergraduate research. But those are some of those challenges. But as I said, many of those challenges can be worked around, or hopefully the faculty try to be proactive about making some changes at each of the universities. Now, faculty themselves have, identified barriers for them that, why, the reasons they don't get engaged in undergraduate research. If you look at it in a lot of universities, faculties don't work. Their classes are so large that they don't even know who the undergraduate students are in their classes. A lot of faculty don't even work with undergraduate students at all. They work with graduate classes only, so they're not exposed to undergraduate students. So that relationship is created. And then many universities are putting online courses. Faculty teach all the classes online, which becomes very extremely difficult to engage a student in undergraduate research if you have online courses. Another challenge that the faculty identify is that students take a long time to declare a major. Students a lot of times, it's not until the junior year that they decide to go in a specific major, and sometimes by the time they get engaged in their major, it's kind of a little bit too late. So that's a challenge. But two of the reasons that has been identified in research studies has been that students rely on faculty to establish this mentor relationship, but at the same time, faculty wait for the students to initiate mentor relationships. So it's kind of like they're waiting on each other to start this mentor type of relationship in undergraduate research. One of the things that I've done in here at this university, and I know several faculty at this university do, is we go to very large classes early in the those large introductory classes, and we talk about undergraduate research. I talk about undergraduate research opportunities in our intro classes, and usually after every lecture I get about 4 to 10 students that want to do undergraduate research, and I try to pair with faculty to get involved in some of the research projects that we do at our school. So I think we both have to be proactive about that. The students have to be told, hey, these are these opportunities. Try to get proactive and getting for faculty. The faculty also have to get proactive about, hey, look, can we get students involved by mentioning stuff in your classes that they're doing research projects, and they will be happy to get undergraduate students involved, because otherwise we just keep waiting for each other to do. Faculty wait for students, or student wait for faculty to decide which one is going to start. All right. There's also some challenges, specific challenges and barriers when you're working with underrepresented underrepresented students. Obviously, there's stereotypes. There's a stereotype that people from underrepresented backgrounds, they might not be able to do quality work, or they come from, their experiences are not the same that people from different other backgrounds. That's something as a mentor you have to be aware of that. Also, if you bring underrepresented minorities to your laboratory, feeling of being isolated and alienated. They might be the only minority students, in your lab, and in many cases, in some schools, they're the only minority students, and there's no minority faculty, and so those are things that you have to be aware of, and because you have to add additional support for underrepresented minorities if you bring an underrepresented minority to your lab. There being some research in how the underrepresented minorities are viewed for mentors, that sometimes because a student comes from as a minority student, the expectations are the faculty, the mentors set low expectation standards, and that's something, and again, that you as a mentor you have to be aware of, that you're not doing that. You should treat them the same as anybody else. There's also what's called the imposter syndrome, and a lot of students, not necessarily active minority students, they get accepted into they get accepted into programs, and people, they doubt their own abilities. But there has been shown that ethnic minority students have reported that professors and students in their undergraduate programs have expressed doubts about their academic abilities because they're a minority student. And this is something that, again, as a mentor, you have to address those. As a mentor, also, you have to understand, how do you work with minorities, and how that you have to be willing to understand different viewpoints, different, not only have to be minorities, but maybe religion beliefs and other things like that, because again, not every student that's going to come to your lab is going to be from the same ethnic minority that you are, or from the same religion that you are, and you have to be pretty open-minded about adjusting your mentoring relationship to include a diverse group of people. And this is something that, if you're a good mentor, you have to be willing to do that. there's been multiple research studies that have asked the students what are the perceptions, you know, of the students of what a good mentor is all about. And this is this is information that came from the Council for Undergraduate Research on a large study that was done. And the students rank what are the perspective of being of good mentoring. And the number one variable that came out, if you can see, is you have to be available. Undergraduate students, value the students being, a mentor that is available for them to come in and talk to you. So a mentor that is, that is in the office with closed doors all the time, that person is probably not going to be a good mentor. You, as a mentor, you have to be available for the students, provide feedback to the students. Sometimes not even available during regular hours, also available outside hours. In social, either in not only in the academic, hours, but also, maybe go out and have some coffee with your students and things like that. You have to be available, and this is one of the things that students identify is crucial for good mentoring. The other one is foster a community of learning. You bring students to your laboratory, or students are doing on the research lab. We're all in this together. Develop some type of team activities, team meetings, journal clubs, social outings together. We have a professor here at IUPUI. They have shirts for the labs. They'll have, that they belong to that lab. So those are things that foster a community of learning, and you have a group of students that now that develop an identity around your lab, and they actually support each other, and actually will, sooner, they will also do better later. Be attentive. Talk to your students, communicate with your students, provide a structure. This is a very important thing. Faculty mentors can develop clear expectations for the students. Develop a contract. I know faculty that when an undergraduate student comes to their lab, they have a contract that tells you this is what you have to do. This is your time commitment. This is the expectations to be in this lab, and the clearer the expectations, the better the students will perform. Or the students will say, I don't want to do this, and I can't do that. So, but I think as a faculty, you have to be communicate with the students, provide a very structured program. That sometimes when you're working with graduate students, this is not going to be like that. Graduate students can be left to work alone, but an undergraduate student, especially at the beginning, you're going to have to provide a very set of structures so the students understand what is their role in the laboratory, what can they do, what they cannot do, and they have an idea of what other expectations are. You have to encourage participation in the broader research community. Have them attend seminars, conferences, helping them maybe find some research opportunities. In many universities we have Research Day, which the students showcase their research they're performing around on their campuses. IUPUI has a Research Day. We usually have about 150 student posters, and now over the years, everybody's looking for that Research Day to showcase the students' research. So those are something that, as a faculty mentor, working with undergraduate research, one of the goals that if the faculty mentor should have is that we want to present this at X conference, or we're going to go to this seminar, and we're going to and also try to get him into some research opportunities available maybe on your campus and other campuses. So those are things that if the students see that, so it's a very good perspective, a perspective of good mentoring. Then the last one, be understanding. You undergraduate students are not graduate students. They're not going to have the level, in the majority of the cases, they're not going to have the level of independence that you're going to have in the graduate student. So you have to have more patience. And also you have to provide more structure, and you have to have understanding about there are things that will come up that, they have more classes, they're taking 3, 4, 5 classes in a semester. So those are things that you have to be very understanding. and you have to provide them with constructive feedback. I mean, telling them, you're doing this great, but this could be better. Sometimes undergraduate students don't work as well getting, as a graduate student, you might be able to give him more pointed feedback, but an undergraduate student, you have to really give him constructive feedback, so they don't get frustrated and they basically quit halfway through the semester. But those are the things that students have said that those are what they see as good mentoring techniques. Now, these are tips for mentors. If you look at the mentors, this came out from the Journal of Undergraduate Neuroscience Education. They're very good. They capture some of the stuff that we're talking about today. I mean, some of them are, excuse me, some of them are personal. For example, if you're a mentor, you have to know yourself. What are your strengths and weaknesses as mentors? As a mentor, what is your mentoring philosophy? They're faculty mentors that are very stricted, very structured. That basically, when an undergraduate student comes into the lab, you have to do certain type of research with me. That I'm dictated type of research. Other mentors allow the students to develop a research on their own, and they guide that student through that research. So, as a mentor, you have to ask yourself, what is my mentoring philosophy? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses as a mentor? And that way, you can play your strength, and you can, and then those are things that's going to help you, in the long run. You have to accept that you're a role model. You have to say that you are going to be a role model for this undergraduate research, and hopefully, this undergraduate researchers see you as a role model. Especially, this is more crucial if you're talking to minority faculty. There is a lack of minority faculty, especially in the science, and you're the role model for that minority student. So I think how you behave, how you present yourself to the student is important. Select your mentee carefully. I mean, sometimes you don't have a choice, but sometimes you have a choice in how you make sure that the students will fit in your laboratory, that it has the skills or the standards that you have for them to succeed in your laboratory. So those are things that, as a mentor, you have to think about it. Improve your listening skills. I mean, a lot undergraduate students will actually talk to you more often than the graduate students because they need that help, or they need that additional structure that you have to provide to them. So you have to be able to to listen to them more and be more accessible. Be accessible, which is the next one. You have to be more accessible probably than the graduate students. Beware of cloning. Allow for individual difference. A lot of times as mentors we try to make everybody look like us, but understand that people have differences, and you have to allow for those individual differences. In terms of the professional, stay current, stay active in research. Like I said before, if you're going to be an undergraduate research mentor, I think one of the first things that you have to do is you have to do research. You have to be actively involved in research. You have to stay current. So that's something that's very important for the student too. Socialize the students with their profession. Make sure they attend conferences. They meet your colleagues in the department. You brag about your students to other faculty member. One of the things that I hope that every mentor can do is recruit more people to to become undergraduate research mentors. And I think one way we can do that is to, if you show that, look, I'm working with this undergraduate research student and that person is doing a great job, other faculty will begin to start, join and say, oh yeah, I'd like to get an undergraduate research student in my laboratory. So those are things that, so promote your mentee to other colleagues. Be directly involved in teaching and training your mentee. I mean, if you made the decision that I'm going to be an undergraduate research mentor, be there for the students. I mean, I've seen in a lot of cases where you place a student with a faculty, and the faculty doesn't see the student during the semester, because what happens is the student is left to the postdoc or the master student to be all the mentoring. And to me, if you decide to become an undergraduate research mentor, you should be there for the students to do that. Don't send it to somebody else to become the mentor. Like I said before, provide clear expectations and honest and constructive feedback to the student. They're going to need clear expectations more than the graduate students, and provide them with good feedback, because that's how they're going to progress. Promote time management skills. I mean, undergraduate students are going to have so many things going on in their life. You got classes, you got activities, social clubs, and all these other things. And hopefully, if you can provide it with time management skills, that will help them, manage their research activities with the classes and studying and things like that. That will help them. And offer personal support. I mean, a part of being a mentor is personal support. It's not only just the academic part. I mean, you have to be there for the students. Sometimes, like I say, after hours, and sometimes you are the person that the students are going to call you and say, look, I need this help in this situation that had nothing to do with the academics. And you, as a faculty, you have to be able to provide that help. And again, it's something that is, if you decide to become a mentor, or if you want to be a mentor, that's something that you have to do. So now I list some of the referencing here that I used to make this presentation. And again, there's multiple references out there that allow you to look and see what are the different, how to help you to be a good mentor, and things like that. So what I'll do now is I'll open it for questions. If you can type a question in the chat room, and hopefully I can answer. I'll answer to you via the microphone. I got the first question is, which website provide guidance and mentoring undergraduates in research? I can tell you there is a very good, and I will send it to you, there's a very good mentoring website at the University of Wisconsin, and I can't tell from the top of my head, from the University of Wisconsin, that basically it's a mentoring training program, very thorough, and I would think it was funded through the federal funding, so anybody's willing to can use it. They also have a manual, a very extensive manual of mentoring undergraduate students with examples and everything. So those are things that I will provide you. That I will provide you with when we send you the presentation, we'll provide you with a list of mentoring programs that allow you that for undergraduate research. Another question: do you have any reference that especially that indicate that undergraduate research is an important high-impact practice for a university to promote? Sure. I think if you go to the list of references, one of the leading person in this is George Koo. High educational impact practice, where they are, how to assess them, and what they matter. He's done extensive research in this area. Also, if you go to the Council for Undergraduate Research for their website, they provide you with a whole list of research studies that have been done that basically show this, undergraduate research can help students, can help faculty. So there is the Council for Undergraduate Research, CUR. They have a whole list of resources that you can access that information that show that it is a high impact practice. There's no doubt about it on that. Another question, does everyone here have established undergraduate research program? I don't know anybody wants to answer. We do have established undergraduate research program. In the IUPUI, we have actually multiple undergraduate research programs in here. We have federally funded research program. We have university funded research program. Like I mentioned before, I was the director for the Diversity Scholars Research Program, which is university funded. That basically to attract minority students to go into undergraduate research program. And if you can send me an email, Kika, I can give you more information about programs and things like that that is available. And we have also departments that have established undergraduate research programs, so that's very helpful. Let me see. What might be an alternative incentive that the ones you listed in the presentation? What do you mean by alternative incentives, Brene? Well, Brene typing, Cordula, I agree with you. I agreed with you that undergraduate students working in the lab can help train the other students, and a lot of times they have a better rapport with the students, and you create a sequence of students being trained, and helping each other. I completely agree with that. I see. Beyond money and course load reduction. That's a good question. Again, what are incentives? I mean, I think obviously money is not going to be very much, except if actually I was in this last weekend. We were in the conference from the Louis Stokes Minorities, the center last weekend, and one of the things that I think University of Oklahoma was doing this was like they're looking out for they target faculty that have applied for NSF grants, and they go to the faculty and tell the faculty, look, do you know since you have an NSF grant, you can get additional money if you get undergraduate research students. That's one possibility. But also, for example, again, undergraduate research can help you get promotion and tenure. I mean, if you think about the scope of undergraduate research, if a student generates good research, that can be helpful for your research. Mentoring is part of teaching, and you can use that as part of teaching. So as a faculty, you can sell that to the faculty and tell them, look, this will help you be your money and course load reduction. It can help you get tenure and promotion because you are actually doing the things that you're going to be measured at. So that's something that you have to convince the faculty. Yeah, I agree with Cordola. NSF looks very favorable in using undergraduate students, and there's also NIH program also that help you recruit undergraduate students, too. So both of the federal agencies will view using undergraduate research students, and they fund. It's a competitive funding, but they also fund. Joseph asked, In grad school research, rejected article might be accepted with change that could take 1 or 2 years. On the graduate research, doesn't have that kind of time. What is the role? What is the role of publishing? And that's a good question. Again, as a mentor, you can find. I mean, it depends when you get the undergraduate research students. Like I said, more and more universities are getting undergraduate research students started their freshman year. Like I said, we have several programs here at IUPUI that start their freshman years. So you got a student 4 years involved in undergraduate research. So that will give you time. There's also, I don't know, in some fields, there's also journals now that are dedicated now for undergraduate, for student research. So you can actually, depending on the field, that actually the goal of the journal is to publish a student research, and understanding that they might not have the time, they might not have they don't have the same quality level, but there are also journals that allow you to do that. Do you know a listing of broad undergraduate research award or most topic specific? I don't have a listing, but we can probably find out, and I'll talk to the people in the center to see maybe we can come up with that. This is, again, this is something that the center will be, will be. We can add some stuff to the center, and that's something that's probably a very good ideas. I know we list some other federal awards that are available for undergraduate students and internships and things like that. So that's something that we can do. Haiti has a good question. Students in my community college receive LSAMP and are expected to do research. How can this be done without any financial support to faculty who have no research lab? Um, that's a good question. I mean, one of the things that we have done at IUPUI was that in some cases that we didn't have financial for LSAM students is we try to see if there's are they other research programs in your university that helps with maybe financial support. We also at IUPUI we have tapped the external sources. And I know on IUPUI the Lilly Foundation was very interested and has funded some undergraduate research initiatives here at IUPUI. So those are things that you might think about it. Maybe outside sources beside the university that was willing to help, on funding an undergraduate research program. I think it's LSM, Lewis Stokes Minority Alliance for Minority Students. Yeah, Heidi, if you have, you're in a community college, one of the things that we did at IUPUI also, we received funding through the NIH, and also NSF has a similar program. It's called the Bridges to Baccalaureate. The Bridges to Baccalaureate is a partnership between uh, universities, 4 years universities, and community college, so we can transition students that are in community college into 4 years universities, and one of the conditions they have to do research. So at IUPUI, we have funding from NIH for the Bridges to Baccalaureate. So we have students at our local, our state community college, Ivy Tech, that would allow us to take students that finish an associate degree in science, will move to the IUPUI, and they will come in and to do research also in the summers before they graduate from the community college, and after they graduate they come in to IUPUI and they get involved in undergraduate research with one of the programs that we have on campus. Thanks, John.
a reminder to fill out the evaluation form that you find in the bottom left-hand corner. And for those of you who haven't given me your email address, please do so I can add you to the list. And Ralph, you can finish up whenever you want. I just wanted to give a quick reminder there.
Sure. Alyssa, thank you for that about the repository where the published research project. That's very helpful, and we'll make sure that we put it in our the link we put it in our center too. If any of you is not familiar with the Council for Undergraduate Research, they have a lot of information about undergraduate research in general, and the impact of undergraduate research, mentors, help with mentors, and everything like that. So if you have any questions, it's called CURD. If you Google CURD, Council of Undergraduate Research, they are the sponsor of the national conferences. If you've ever been to the CURD conferences, it's all undergraduate research, and you're talking about close to 4,000 or 5,000 students every year. So if you want more information about CURD and also the LSM program, you can visit our site, our www.LSMCE, which is our site. So our Lois Stokes Midwest Center for Excellence, and you can find more information there. And if we can help you with any kind of questions about undergraduate research, one of the purpose of our center is to help universities and other colleges involved, in undergraduate research, especially the LSAM program, is to help you with that. And there's a lot of information on the center. So I hope that if you have questions, you can click on the center, and there's an area that you can ask questions, and you can have people help with you and people help you and everything. Any other questions that we can answer? I think, just talking here, one of the biggest challenges for undergraduate research mentoring is it takes time, and a lot of times, faculty are reluctant to grab undergraduates, especially if faculty have graduate students. They're reluctant to take undergraduate students because it takes time. And again, it's something that the culture in academia is changing, and because they see the value of doing undergraduate research. So I think more and more universities are becoming on board and adjusting some of the course loads, or giving credit to undergraduate research, because they understand this is something that the students is helpful to the students, and they're going to be able to use that in jobs, in graduate research, and things like that. So that's something that it'll be extremely helpful for them. And again, I want to remind you that please click on the evaluation, because obviously that will help us with future webinars and how to improve the webinars and some of the topics that we're going to for the future. So make sure that you fill out the evaluation, and I'd like to thank everybody. Thank you very much for attending the webinar.